You're listening to The Play Pouch. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're talking about our 5 most disappointing games of 2023. It's going to be a corker. So before we begin, if you like our podcast, hit that subscribe button, notification bell and the thumbs up and leave a comment, all that good stuff. And let's just dive right into it.
Well, firstly, I'm going to say Merry Christmas to everybody. It is that time of year. And this is the first of 4 end-of-year lists we've got for you.
Yeah.
This one is the disappointing one, and then up next will be the 5 worst. Then the one just before Christmas will be the best ones that we've played.
Yeah.
And then just before New Year's will be the top 5 games we're most anticipated for 2024. So there we are. This is the first one, so the most disappointing list.
My number 5 pick is Avatar Frontiers of Pandora.
Okay.
Reason being is because it's all very pretty, but there's not much substance to it, and it is just sort of like very, very highly repetitive. You'll get bored of it very, very quickly. But I mean, as it is very, pretty looking, but not much substance.
I've heard it's meant to be a bit like Far Cry. That's all I've heard about it.
Yeah. But that's the issue, really, because you're just going to be doing the same old shit again and again and again, really, until you sort of pull all your hair out. Pubes.
It looks very pretty, though, doesn't it? It's definitely got that going for it. It's pretty.
Yeah, no, it's cutting edge prettiness for sure. But there's just nothing in it. It's just like it's like a blonde bimbo. No.
Shit.
There's just not much. There's just not much with it, right? To be quite honest, and I kind of dislike Avatar anyway, so I just think it's a bit soulless.
Yeah, if you don't like the films, I don't know how much you're going to get out of it. That's fair.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, moving on, because Avatar sucks ass.
Yeah, that was a little bit surprising, that one, because obviously it's not been out that long either, has it? It's only been out a couple of weeks. Okay, for me, I bet you, Pete, you've probably never even heard of this.
Go on.
I am a wrestling fan, but I'm an old school wrestling fan. I like stuff in the 80s and stuff. I don't really watch it anywhere near as much. But I do keep my eye on occasional games. So my number 5 is called AEW Fight Forever. It is a wrestling game, and I guess the best way I can phrase it is that basically the big boy, the 2K games, has been kind of after competition for so many years, and this was like such a kind of great hope that people who like wrestling games kind of, like our friend Alan, for example, he likes them as well. And this game was such a kind of a great hope, like, somebody somebody's going to come along and challenge the big boys, right? Give the big boys some proper competition.
Yeah, sure.
And unfortunately, it just didn't. It didn't have particularly great marketing or hype behind it anyway. It just kind of came out, and it's just a disappointing game. And this is the disappointing list, and it's just disappointing. It's not the worst game, far from it, far from the worst game, but it's just so disappointing.
Why was it disappointing?
It's just the animations were not very clear. The gameplay modes is not very good. You can only have 4 characters on screen at any one time, when it's accepted at least 6 to 8 characters you can have on screen on the other game. But this, you can only have 4 characters on screen. So technology wise, it's incredibly dated. The graphics are okay, but not great. But then again, the graphics in all the wrestling games are not great, to be honest. But it's just on every level, modes, roster size, the technical aspects of it, the presentation also, which it's hard to explain if you're not a wrestling fan, Pete. But
yeah,
the wrestlers have all these entrances which are elaborate and everything. But in this game, you get a couple of seconds and then it just cuts. Everything just felt a bit cheap. Everything just felt a bit cheap, like they cut corners. And like I say, it's not the worst game ever, but because their expectations were very high for it, it under-delivered, which is exactly why it's on this list. Under-delivered when everybody thought it would be a competitor for the top spot. And yeah, that's it.
So it's your kind of bare bones, sort of like minimal effort type of venture then.
And it was hyped up a little bit as well by the people making it. Like, oh yeah, we're going to create a proper competition, and it's ended up just being a bit of a fart, really.
Yeah.
Just an average, just an average game, which is not going to challenge
Dude,
the market
I,
leader.
I hate it when they hype up games, man, and it's just annoying. All right, well, yeah, okay, that's a good choice, I guess. As you said, I don't pay attention to wrestling games.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 4 pick is Cities Skylines 2. So this is your Sim City builder, and this one came out not long ago, and it is not very well optimized, and it should be sort of no shock, really. I mean, it goes with the trend of games these days where they sort of overhype and they underdeliver. I don't remember whether the previous one was like this, but I was looking forward to this one, and when it released, I was just disappointed, and I kind of realized, well, yeah, it's going to be poorly optimized, isn't it? I mean, like, it's probably best that I put this on the shelf and come back to it in about a year or so, when there's been a number of patches and DLC additions and stuff, because the previous one is really good. So I would say to people, just sort of grab the previous one.
So why was this? I do remember reading something about it being really, really bad. It needed a patch or something more or less right away. So was it just badly optimized?
Yeah, like really badly. I mean, like it's obviously sort of wanting you to get better hardware, like a better CPU and GPU, and if that's a tactic, then shame on you. I really hope it isn't, but yeah, they don't bother. They just make sure that all the latest sort of like cards can handle it and stuff, and then fuck all the rest basically. So yeah, City Skylines 2. Nah, I would wait for a bit and just carry on playing the first one.
That's a horrible experience. It's not even to the fact where you can even get to the gameplay stuff. It's like, well, no, I can't even get to the gameplay to see if it's good, because it's so riddled by technical problems that the game's already ruined or unplayable before you even get to really play it. It sucks when that happens, but.
And if you've got a fairly low end system like I do, then it just looks garbage, and you're just like, oh, what's the point? Because I mean, like, I'm very simple minded. I do like good graphics. So if I can't get a decent graphics on my 1070 Ti, my twins, then what's the point?
No, it's disappointing because, as you said, the first game was. I played the first game as well. No, the first game is pretty good. It was obviously it took over the kind of old SimCity mantle, didn't it?
Yeah, it's the standard now.
Yeah.
Well, the first one is at least. So, yeah, that's my number 4.
Okay. Oh, good old Microsoft, eh? Good old Xbox and their exclusives. They never cease to disappoint me.
Oh, God.
Which brings me to my number 4, which is Redfall.
Okay.
So this was pretty hyped by the folks who made the Dishonored games.
All right.
Arcane Studios, isn't it? And which have generally been regarded pretty well. And then they've decided, probably at Microsoft's kind of like nudging them on a little bit, yeah, can you make us a co-op game, please? And they've tried their hand at this vampire Left 4 Dead clone, which is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just ended up being an absolute disappointment. I mean, it was a disappointment before it even released, because I don't know if you remember this year, but Microsoft, I think even on the cover of the game, they had to write a warning on the cover of the game, the physical copy, because the game promised 60 frames per second. And Microsoft, more or less at the last minute, said, oh shit, we can't deliver that. We can't deliver 60 frames per second. So they put warnings on the boxes saying 60 frames per second to be introduced later on via a patch. So at time of speaking, which obviously is December 2023, that patch is now there. So the game is at 60, but it wasn't at launch.
Right.
So right away, that should have been a warning sign that the game was not ready to be released. And this happens so often. How many times have we said this, Pete?
Yeah,
these games not being released in the right condition and then having to be patched later just to do what they promised, right?
Yeah.
So I played it for about an hour, because that's as much as I could stomach, because I did want to see it for myself. So I played it for about an hour when it came out in like February. And I didn't like it right away. There's virtually no cutscenes. The cutscenes are all done in a weird kind of almost an anime way, where it's just kind of like freeze frames, really.
Oh, the lazy
Which,
kind.
yeah, which you just wouldn't expect. But it is really disappointing because I actually had my eye on it when they first announced it last year, or whenever it was. I had my eye on it because I thought, well, you know what? There's not actually that many vampire looter games kind of thing, right? So, the zombies have been done to death, and this is technically a little bit of a new spin on it. So I was willing, as a co-op game, I remember saying it to Alan, like, maybe we keep an eye on this, maybe this is something we can play as a co-op game.
Yeah.
But then it came out in the state it was in, and both of us just went, "No, we're good." And obviously, this was meant to be a big deal for Microsoft. So even so much that the guy, I forget his name, the guy from Microsoft, had to apologize afterwards for the state of it and how it was released. He went on podcasts and said, "Yeah, we're sorry that we dropped the ball, we let everybody down," etc.
Yeah.
So that's my number 4 because it's the epitome of a disappointing game. I'm sure it's not the worst game of the year, but considering what it was meant to be and what it ended up being, it's number 4, bruv.
Yeah, well, I can understand that, to be quite honest. I didn't pay any attention to Redfall, which is kind of lucky, I guess. All right,
Not
so
missing much,
yeah, my number 3. You're going to be surprised with this, mate. I'm pretty sure because I know you love this game. It's Lord of the Rings Gollum.
I'm surprised to see it. Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to see it only in your disappointing games
and
not in another list that we'll be doing shortly.
Yeah. It's not in the other list. Yeah. No, it's not.
So I'm surprised that it's actually not in the other list. I guess that's what I can say.
Yeah.
So we can talk about it, even if it
I'll be brief because I know it's probably going to be somewhere else on your list.
It will be somewhere else on my list, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, to be quite, I mean, like I heard whispers about this game before it was released, and I was kind of like, okay, no, I'll give that a go. Sort of thinking about Shadows of Mordor style sort of graphics and stuff. And when it was released, it was just like, okay.
I mean, considering that obviously, in all fairness, you're much more protective of the lore of that than I am. Like, I'm more protective of the lore of Star Wars because that's more, than you are. But because, in case people don't know, Pete obviously was a big fan of the Tolkien books and everything like that. So
fucking huge fan. Yes.
Yeah. So I can see why you're going to be more affected by this probably than me. That's why a little bit I'm surprised that you're not being harsher on it. So why have you only got it on the disappointing then? Did you think it wasn't? Did it do something right then? Do you think?
I thought it was a good effort. I gave them sort of like a good mark for full effort, but the execution was just like, come on, man, right? Like the mechanics, the optimizing.
Oh, the optimization was terrible, bro.
The graphics, Angry Joe played it, and it was like a slideshow for him when it first opened up, and the gameplay was literally the dictionary definition of monotonous. They didn't put any thought into it. I don't know whether it's law breaking because I haven't actually had the effort to sit all the way through it. And yeah, so I was. That's the reason why it's in my most disappointing list. Just because anything that's Lord of the Rings related, game wise, I'm going to take a look at.
Yeah.
And as you said, I'm a guardian of the lore, and the Amazon TV show, is literally condemned to death, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, this was just another nail, and I just thought, oh fuck's sake! But I guess I sort of blame the Tolkien estate more. Since Christopher, since Christopher Tolkien died, his Tolkien's son, is kind of the franchise has gone downhill a little bit. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, like Gollum just kind of he looked weird. It was just like 50% of his face was his eyes, and the animation, just like everything, the character models.
And get me started on the voice actor as well. Did you like the voice acting, Pete?
Oh, God's sake. And the orcs had these gigantic sort of like tit helmets on, I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is like literally lazy.
Oh, I'm going to have a field day on our next show on it, don't worry.
Yeah. So Yeah, no thanks, Gollum. Sorry, dude.
Be seeing you later, Gollum. Don't worry, I'll be seeing you later.
Yeah. That's my number 3.
Okay, my number 3. This is not a repeat, so to speak, because this is the market leader I'm going to talk about, and I'm even more critical of this one. This is another wrestling game, the big leader, the WWE 24 2K.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to have to apologise to a friend of mine called Alan in advance because he bought it for me as a gift.
Sorry, Al.
And I know he likes this more than me. But he bought it for me as a gift. So, and I have played it, and I'm going to play a bit more of it. That's why it's disappointing. It's not a worst game. It's a disappointing game because once upon a time I did used to really like my wrestling games. And I just feel that this series is another one of these yearly games where they make, right? Like a lot of sports games, they do a yearly version of this. They make very minor changes every year.
Yeah.
And it just seems like every year they do less and less and less and less. But it's got to the point now where I don't even particularly enjoy the gameplay. So even though I have to sit through lots of corporate stuff, horrible music, lots of corporate stuff where they've added all these microtransactions now. Of course they have, right? I mean, this is what happens when you become a part of the 2K universe, right? Just like their basketball games, it's all microtransaction heavy. So it's turned into a microtransaction heavy game. Horrible soundtrack. The graphics are okay, but they've actually turned the gameplay, to me, into more of a fighting game than a simulation game. Right. And in my mind, if I want to play a fighting game, I'll go play Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or something like that, right?
Right.
So this game just does not feel like a wrestling game for me. And as a long-time wrestling fan, there's certain things that I like in my wrestling games. And I wouldn't have bought this probably myself unless I could get it really cheap. So Alan got it for me as a gift, but I probably wouldn't have bought this myself unless it was like 20 quid.
Yeah.
And I've just played it, and I just found myself just not liking the gameplay. So now it's just like if I want a wrestling game, I virtually have no options because 2 of my 5 disappointing games are both wrestling games. So that's where I'm standing right now. The market leader is the WWF games, but I don't like them. I don't like them. I don't like the camera angles. I don't like the speed of the games. I just don't like it.
That's sad. When you have like a situation like this where you love a certain type of genre and there's nothing.
No, there's that's why the Fight Forever game was waiting. That's why that was so disappointing as well, because it's kind of like, well, please have some competition. So give the wrestling fans who do like the video games, give them an option rather than just this one game.
Yeah.
And it's not transpired, so you're left with the big boys who just half-arse it more often than not. Some people like them. They must do because it sells a lot. So, but it's just my personal preference. I've just disliked them more and more with each year that passed. So it's at the point where I'll probably never buy them again myself, unless I get given them as a gift or something like that. I doubt I'll ever buy them myself again. So it's pretty sad, but that's my number 3. 2 wrestling games in my top 5, but there we are. It's the death of a genre, really, for me, unfortunately.
That's sad. They need to turn that shit around.
I wish they would.
Okay, so moving on to my number 2. I don't suppose it'll come too much of a surprise when I mention Forza Motorsport 8.
Good old Xbox, another great Xbox exclusive. So another one that's disappointing, eh?
Oh my God. Okay, so let me just start off by saying badly optimized. It took me a heck of a long time to get that shit running at 60.
And that's on the PC, right, isn't it? Yeah.
It's on the PC, yeah. And it automatically loses 2 points when I have to view a YouTube video on how to optimize the settings.
That's ridiculous.
The way they've labeled the settings and laid it out is just sort of what's going on. So yeah, that's an issue. First off. Second off is that it's like a sort of the career mode is like a string of series. Now, I don't remember whether the previous one had this, but you had to complete one and then move on to the next one and then on to the next one and stuff. So that really annoyed me because I do remember a time when I could just pick whatever series I wanted to play and go for it. So that was kind of annoying. Another thing which really pissed me off is that you can't use cash that you earned to sort of tune up your car to put new parts in it. You have to use something called car points, and you get car points by leveling up the car that you use for the certain tournament that you're in.
Okay.
Right. So you have to sort of go through this practice thing before the race. I mean, you don't have to, but you have to go into the practice and then select skip. I don't know why you can't just skip the practice from the earlier point, but yeah, so that's how you level up your car. The more you drive the car, the more it levels up. So therefore, the more you can sort of like beef it up. But all of that sort of becomes irrelevant when you're on the second to last race of the series or the last race of the series, and then you start a new series. You have to pick a new car and then start all over again. Right. So me and my mate, we were like, all right, fine. All right, let's just crack on and do it because we like racing car games.
Yeah.
Then it started being, well, the only way I could describe it is that it was being a dick, in that we would progress, save the game, log out, and then we'd come back to it again, and it hadn't saved our progression. So,
Wow, really? So you hadn't saved it. So were you losing whole saved games then?
No, it would go back to a previous state. It would say that, oh, yeah, here's your save. This is like, no, we completed that series. So we had to do multiple series again and again and again. And it was really starting to piss us off. And it just got to the point where I was just like, you know what, fuck this shit. Fuck this shit. And so I uninstalled it. It got too much for me, mate. Even for someone who's like a real racing game lover,
yeah,
it just completely just destroyed it.
And was it? So last year's wasn't anywhere near as bad then? Is it significantly worse than the ones from yesteryear then? Just this year's?
Yes, it is. And another thing which puts a nail in its coffin is that you can't download. If you haven't bought the previous one, you can't buy the previous one. It's been delisted. It's not on the Xbox Marketplace anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it's got something to do with license. They say something to do with licenses, but it's like, well, you've got licenses for this one. So
that's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, they obviously wanted everyone to buy the new game at the higher price, and it's just it's made me feel sick because I just thought, well, I'll just get the previous version. Then no, you can't. Sorry, it's not available. It's like, fuck you, man. Oh,
Microsoft, bruv.
Yeah, it's kind of. I'm tempted to sort of like, you know what, fuck it. I'll jump over to PlayStation and get Gran Turismo. It's just like, whatever, dude. I hate that kind of. You don't need to add car points. Why can't I just use the millions that I've got sitting in my bank on buying upgrades with that? Why do I have to use car points? Oh God, yeah. Just like literally, fuck you, Forza Motorsport. Fuck you, Turn 10. Fuck you up the arse. I don't care. I don't think I'm ever going to play another Forza game again now. You've ruined it.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, I feel really strongly about that because we were so patient. We were like, really? We had to do shit again and again and again. And yeah, eventually we just couldn't take it anymore.
And Microsoft wonder why they're failing so much with their exclusives, eh?
There's something going on up there, mate. I don't know. They're being the executives are being too bullyish, or whatever. The devs are overworked. I don't know. Something's going on. But anyway, yes, rant over. That's my Forza Motorsport at number 2.
Okay, so my number 2 is EAFC 24. That's what it's called nowadays. EAFC 24, formerly known as FIFA.
Yes.
So they've lost their license, and now it's EA FC 24, which is even a worse name than FIFA. So this is another one of these yearly sports games.
Yeah.
And I should just say quickly that I do not play the online element. The online element is cancerous, and you might say, "Oh, you shouldn't do what?" No, it's cancerous. The amount of money that this game steals, for lack of a better word, from young impressionable teenagers who are football fans, of which it's the most popular sport in the world. So there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And the fact that they release one of these games every year and they get so much money out of generally young impressionable people is disgusting. But I'm actually not even talking about that. That could be something else to dislike about it. I'm just talking about the single player stuff and how little they change every year. And in order to get the game to almost to a playable state, if you will, you have to tweak and tweak and tweak. And it's funny that you just mentioned about Forza, Pete, with you having to go onto YouTube. I had to go onto YouTube and change the settings for how the game plays, because in FIFA you've got all these different sliders. Because they've done such a bad job with the AI making it a fun game that you literally have to go in and screw around with all these sliders that fix game speed, that fix all stuff like that, just to get it to a half decent playable state.
Jesus.
Yep, and there's videos online about it, and multiple videos that get millions of views about how to turn your FIFA game into a realistic simulation, football simulation. And similar to the wrestling games that I was talking about earlier, because there's virtually no competition for them. If you're a football fan and you want to play a football arcade game, there really is no option. There's one other game which is like a free-to-play. Used to be Pro Evolution Soccer, done by Konami. So that's Konami for you, so you know that you're in for trouble there. And it's not particularly good either. And also, that doesn't have all the licenses. So if you want to play a proper unit, the proper kind of game, you FIFA is the game you buy. And every year they do this. They charge 60 quid, so full price every year, every 12 months. And if they make 10% changes each year, they're lucky. So I only play the career mode, right, because I enjoy that stuff. And honestly, with this year, when I bought it and I played the career mode, I noticed there was one thing they changed. So I've gone ahead and I've spent another 60 quid, more or less, buying the same game I bought last year. All that's different is it's got an updated roster.
Yeah.
And there's training's different. How you train your players is different in this year's game. And that's what I've done. And so I'm more or less got the copy up for sale on eBay. Because I've played it for a month or two, and I'm like, okay, I've got it out of my system, so to speak. I might as well just keep my older game because there's not enough here. So next year's game, I'm probably not going to buy until it goes on sale anyway. I won't be buying it early like I did this year because they don't change enough.
God's sake! Well, yeah, it was to be expected. I mean, it's EA, so you know what else are you going to get?
But and it's my fault. I only blame myself. Nobody put a gun to my head. I should have known better. I do know better. But again, I just felt like, I want to play a football game. I want to play a football game because, sometimes I just want to put a game on for half an hour. Sometimes I haven't got 2 or 3 hours to invest in a game. Sometimes I just want to put a game on for half an hour, and that kind of game is perfect for a very short session.
Yeah.
So. I went ahead and bought it, and after about 2 or 3 hours, I was immediately regretting it because I was like, okay, this is just the same game.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know how you can upgrade these types of games year after year, but like they've been getting away with it for a long time.
You can't, and it won't change because they make so much money. And it's not going to change. The only thing that can change is me and how next year not to fall for it. Is as simple as that. So I blame myself for it mainly, but it still doesn't mean that it's not incredibly disappointing that they changed so little. So number 2 most disappointing game is EA FC 24. Different name, same shit.
Yeah, fuck you, EA. So yeah. All right. Well, my number 1, I suspect.
I have a feeling we might have the same. I have a feeling we might have the same game. Yeah. I have a feeling we might. Let's see.
We haven't told each other our lists, by the way, so it's kind of fun for us as well. Starfield.
Yeah. Okay. So this is both our number 1. We'll have a nice convo about it. We have already did that. This actually was our first podcast. Actually, it was on Starfield.
Yeah.
But that was a couple of months ago now. So what do we feel about it at the end of the year, Pete?
All right. Well, having had time to let it fester in my mind for a while, this is kind of like a similar situation to Mass Effect Andromeda, I'm afraid, in that they had so much potential. They had the whole universe and the whole sci-fi type exploration, limitless ideas to come up with. And they come up with some mediocre bunch of bullshit with no aliens whatsoever. I mean, you've got monsters, yeah, sure, but there's no alien race. There's no sort of...
There's no intelligent life, is there?
No, and it is literally just Fallout in space or Skyrim in space, whatever you want to do it. They played it safe. They stuck to their gameplay sort of style, and they adapted it to the space. I just when I was playing through the game, I just could not stop thinking about, this is Fallout. This is just Fallout reskinned, basically. And I don't feel like I'm going from planet to planet. I just feel like I'm going from one loading screen to another loading screen.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've jettisoned out into space and I'm vulnerable in space. I didn't feel anything like that. And I just got more and more disappointed as I played the game. I mean, like, the ending is okay, but it is very sort of encouraging you to replay it. So it's encouraging you to sort of storm through the main quest line again and again and again.
How dull, Pete.
Yeah, with the same side quest. Maybe something happens differently when you get to New Game plus 20 or New Game plus 30. It's just like, I'm not going to play the fucking main story again and again and again. And it's not even top tier. It's not even middle tier as a storyline. It's just like, what the fuck? Basically. It's very lazy, and it's very sort of like playing it safe, as I would say.
At least you finished it. I didn't even get to finish it, and I don't think I'm going back. I won't rule it out 100%, but I stopped playing it and started playing Final Fantasy VII, and I never went back to it. And even though I've finished Final Fantasy VII now, I could easily go back to it now, but I haven't. So I think I'm done with it, which means I didn't even bother finishing it.
Well, I can reveal to you one of the elements that I was really impressed with at the end. Then, you run across yourself, right? And it's a sort of like a cinematic almost, and the character turns to you and starts talking to you, right? And you actually end up having a voice, and the lip syncing is absolutely fucking amazing. I was just like completely gobsmacked, and I was hoping that you'd get there, just so you could agree, because they, it was really good. I have to hand it to them, that ending sort of thing and the lip syncing. It's like, why couldn't you do that lip syncing throughout the whole game? It was amazing.
The only thing I know that happened, other than what you just told me, is I know that you and I haven't done this yet either. This shows you how little of the main quest that I was compelled to do. I know that eventually you have to find these temples, and it's like you have to, like, Angry Joe kind of spoiled this for me when I watched his review, and you kind of float around having to collect things, and then you get like Dragonborn shouts or abilities, right? And he was taking the piss out of it, just saying, okay, so you're Starborn, that's what he called it. You're Starborn, so you're just Dragonborn in space. And he was just like, you've literally taken exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
and that's just so lazy.
It is, dude. Yeah. It's really just, it's really like, wow, really? Because when I got my first one, I was like, what?
And Angry Joe, in this review, he got this ability. I can't remember what it was called, and he was using it, and it was barely hurting the enemies, and he was just like, "What the hell?
Yeah,
what the hell is this ability?" It's like, and he was using it, and the enemy's health was barely going down. He goes, "I might as well just shoot them," and he just started shooting them, killed them quicker.
Yeah, it's the fact that they've defended to all ends the barren planets that you land on, and you just end up walking for miles and miles, and it's really dull. And it's just like, why can't we have buggies? Or well, because our creation engine can't fucking handle it. That's why.
Then don't make the game. Then that's my answer to that, mate. Then don't make the game. If you're not willing to change your engine, then don't make a game set in the future where every future would have every perceivable future would have land vehicles.
And you know what's really a kick in the teeth is that there's land vehicles in the fucking game, but you can't play them. You can't pilot them. So it's like, okay, yes, the shipbuilder thing is good, but it's all just sort of like huge blocks of Lego. And it's just like there's no way of really making it unique. There's not enough sort of like flair pieces, if you like.
And also, it's like, that's well and good, and I understand. I played around with it a little bit myself, but because ship combat is such a small part of the game, really, it's like, why bother? I mean, okay, so you've got a pretty looking ship, but I mean, in the end, I mean, does it matter?
I mean, they said that they worked really hard on their ship design. It's like, bro, really? It's like, it doesn't look like you did. It's like, why can't we build Galaxy class ships with small ships in them that we sort of like we can have these class ships in orbit and then use the little shuttles to go down. It's like, dude, what have you been doing for the past fucking however long it said it took you to fucking make the game? 10 years or something, wasn't it? And it's like, really, what the fuck have you lot been doing?
And also, mate, so I remember they were speaking big about, and I think we covered this in one of our news videos about the Bethesda rep who was answering people's comments on Steam.
Oh yeah,
and he was talking about, there's so many different ways to play the game. There's so many different ways to earn money and credits. Oh, you can go and do contraband. Do you know what? You don't get that much for contraband. Once you take away everything, right, you get a couple of thousand credits. You can get that from killing a couple of guys and just stealing and just taking their weapons and selling them.
Or if you're on PC, you can just use the console.
Well, yeah. So the point is that don't act like that makes up for the fact that there's not very much to do in your game. That's not, okay. You want to have stuff like that, and then you need to, obviously, contraband needs to be worth the risk then, because in the game it's not worth the risk.
Yeah,
or worth the hassle. I know you can go and buy ship components that kind of cover it up, but why would you bother? Why bother? You don't get that much for the contraband. You know what I mean? It's just like, so you want to play like a raider, okay? So you can raid other ships then, and then you can raid and steal ships, which sounds fun, right? Until you realise you've then got to register the ships. Spend loads of money to register the ship, because you can't sell the ship till you register it. So by the time you've registered the ship, flown down, sold the ship, again, you've made 2,000 credits.
Hang on. Why didn't the previous owners register the ship? Right?
No, it's done in game because they've done that purposely, because they don't want you to have too much money. But then why bother? If you're not going to make it lucrative, then why bother doing it?
It's because they want you to spend hours upon hours upon hours trawling through a barren landscape where there's nothing. Oh, this is so much fun, Bethesda. I can't believe how much fun it is. I could fire up Unreal fucking Engine, build a landscape which is like, I don't know, fucking 20 by 20 kilometers, and just like have nothing on it, and just press test play or whatever it is, and just do the same fucking thing, and not have to spend 60 quid.
Mate, Starfield is boring.
Yeah, it's so dull.
It's just boring. It's not the worst game ever. It's not the worst game ever. But
No.
this is why this is on the disappointing list and not the worst games list. It's not the worst game. It's not one of the worst games of the year.
It's not King Kong. It's not Gollum.
No, but when you consider the hype, and again, this was meant to be Bethesda's new IP. This was meant to be the Xbox's system seller. This was meant to be all these things, and in the end, it's just a bit boring. It's 5 out of 10. That's what it is.
If you want to play something like this, guys, No Man's Sky.
Much better option.
Just go with No Man's Sky. And if you've got the PC rig, try a bit of Star Citizen. It's not finished, but at least those two games are a lot further on and a lot more impressive than Starfield. Trust me.
Yeah.
There's nothing more that I want to say about Starfield apart from cursing it.
I mean, we've by all means, guys, go and watch our first video. We talked about it there, and our opinion actually has dropped since then. So that was actually a much more optimistic take than our current views on it now.
Yeah.
So it's both mine and Pete's most disappointing game of the year. When you consider the amount of hype, it's actually probably a long way out for me. It's significantly the most disappointing game of the year.
Yep. Fuck you. Fuck you, Bethesda. Fuck you, Turn 10. Fuck you, EA.
Yeah.
Just pull your thumbs out of your arseholes. Oh, it's difficult to make computer games these days. Well, it kind of wasn't a decade ago.
Just lazy, bruv.
So what's changed? Anyway, that'll do for this episode. If you liked our show, consider giving us a subscription. Consider slapping that notification bell, giving us a thumbs up. Let us know about your disappointing games of this year. Do you agree with our list? Do you hate our list? Let us know. We would love to hear from you. And until the next episode, we shall say goodbye.
Yep, take care.